Zenless Zone Zero is not a bad game. I said it. I'll even take it a step further and say I think it's overhated. So let's not waste any time and just break it down. Before we begin, however, I want to share where I am on my account. So in the top left, you can see my proxy level. I'm level 26. And I've also unlocked Shiyu Defense, which is basically the Spiral Abyss or Forgotten Hall version of Zenless Zone Zero. I've also tried hard mode, not challenge mode. I've actually tried both of them. So I've tried challenge mode and hard mode on story, so I want to go over that as well. And lastly, I finished up to chapter 2 of the story. So I have a decent amount of knowledge, although this still is a work in progress guide, and I will continue to update you guys as new information comes available to me. With that being said, let's get started. So, why are people hating on Zenless Zone Zero? It pretty much comes down to 3 things: the gameplay, the difficulty, and the story. And we're gonna go by it one by one. So, let's go off with gameplay. First and foremost, let's just get this out of the way. The TV system, it sucks. It is nearly universally agreed on that it either needs to be revamped or taken out entirely. Another aspect that people are frustrated with is the simplicity of the combat, which is something else I want to touch on. Since these two practically go hand in hand, the difficulty is also way too easy, especially since it was advertised as a combat-intensive game. Pretty much all it boils down to is mashing your basic button a bunch of times and you just swap and you parry everything, and that's how pretty much you win. What many players fail to realize is this game was made with mobile players in mind. And before you say Wuthering Waves, I agree. I would have liked that as well. However, you have to keep in mind that this is Hoyoverse that naturally has a casual audience. So it's only logical that they would make a game that's a little bit more accessible because that's what people are familiar with. On top of that, these are practically still the opening days and hours especially of the game. So not many people have made it past the prologue and they're still judging it based off of that. So with that being said, let's go on further and see what is later on in the game. Without going too far into spoilers, there was a boss in the story that actually made me try a little bit. There was a second phase and everything, and whenever I would parry, they would actually get fatigued from parrying 3 times or taking a heavy blow. So it wasn't just simply swapping in, I actually had to dodge and see what the boss was doing. I had to change up the gameplay a little bit. On top of that, let's switch over to Shiyu Defense. It is a time attack kind of event, similar to Spiral Abyss, where you have to beat the enemies within a certain time frame. Well, if you want to be as optimal as possible, you typically want to group up the enemies and attack them together. So I would save my ultimate and use it so I could use splash damage and attack all of them at the same time. If you go in without leveling up your artifacts, or disk drives I suppose they're called in this game, you're gonna get bodied. I'll just say it. Lastly, as far as challenge mode and hard mode goes for the story, challenge mode just makes them more of a bullet sponge. They're not really much tougher. And as far as hard mode goes, yeah, they're not really much of a threat either. Hey, I'm gonna give the full truth regardless if it benefits me or not. Lastly, a lot of people have expressed their dissatisfaction for the story. I will, in fact, be going over some spoilers for Chapter 2, so if you wish to remain spoiler-free, skip ahead to this part in the video right now. Okay, if you're still here, then you either don't care or, I don't know, you just want to be here. At the beginning of Chapter 2, I didn't really care too much for Coletta. She was fun to play, but I found her a little bit annoying. However, later on in Chapter 2, we learn about her backstory when she was a little girl and what happened to her father, and it was kind of touching. There was also this family drama between Coletta and Grace, because they're cousins. So there was this bickering back and forth, and they didn't agree with each other a lot, and at the end of it, they ended up showing that they really cared for each other, and I thought that was really nice. So, in essence, trust me bro, it's good. Well, if that's what people hate about the game, then what are some good things? Well, naturally, let's go over them. I have 3 as well. It's the animation, the music, and the sound design that actually doesn't get recognized enough. So let's break them down. If the TV system is universally hated, I believe that the animation is universally adored. This game is sparking with life, and I just have a blast looking at all the colors splashing. It's so satisfying hitting a parry, which I'll get into in a moment, and just running around, and the cutscenes are superb. It is honestly some of the best I've ever seen in, honestly, many video games. They have really outdone themselves here. Another thing I want to highlight is the music. Take a listen for yourself. Now, I understand that this could be considered cherry picking. However, I want to invite you to listen to the OST yourself, because many of the tracks are a bop. So give it a listen yourself, you won't be disappointed. One last thing that I want to highlight is that the sound design is masterfully executed. Just take a look at this. I think you get the point, but the sound design is very well done, and I invite you to check it out yourself. And that's why I believe Zenless Zone Zero is not in fact a bad game, and I think it's still overhated. I understand it shouldn't take 5 or 10 hours for you to finally start enjoying something. That makes sense. However, it's also a good idea to wait until you have a more informed opinion and let other people figure it out for themselves, so you can be better educated on what's to come. In all honesty, my previous review was pretty poorly done, so this is more of like a second review if you want to consider that. So I would have revised my score from the 8 out of 10 that I gave it to a 7 out of 10. It is still not great, it's not bad, it is simply good. With that being said, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for all things gacha, and as always, subscribe for more.